Call is yours. On your market, set, go.
Thanks, Kenny. Well, let's see. It's been interesting. It's been a very on a surface kind of like unconscious level. It's been a very stressful time. I'm moving and moving to a place we're living with my partner for 12 years and a lot of stuff. She's accumulated a lot of stuff, and so it's like pack. And I don't really do that well with a lot of stuff as far as managing or anything like that. At least in the past, I'm noticing that. And so there's been a lot of stress I've been feeling about that whole prospect, and which has been really good because it's been really showing me that where I've been attached, where I've really been attached with this, and what the possibilities are, which are to be, freedom. I mean, there's no reason for me to be, packing a household is no different than taking a walk around an open, a beautiful forest. It's the same thing. It's just all about what the mind does with it. That's all. And so to be able to really look at that and move through that and stay centered, uh, not stay centered as much as I'm using it as yoga to become centered, because obviously I'm not centered if I'm stressed. You can be sure of that if you're stressed about anything in the world, you're not centered. That's clear. I mean, that isn't a bad thing, but it is a true thing. Is if it's like, again, I go back to Einstein's quote where he said, the most important decision you can make is whether or not you live in a friendly or hostile universe, which to me translates to, if it's going to be a friendly universe, if I'm going to live in a friendly universe, that means I can't really devote my mind to dealing with hostility, trying to fight, fix, or whatever hostility. Because what's really happening is, if for to have hostility in a friendly universe can just mean one thing, just one thing with my mind, and that is I'm not seeing something. I'm seeing something else that I'm making up. I'm not seeing the freedom in it. And I want to be able to see the freedom in everything, because that's really what this is about. This freedom from suffering is that. Freedom from suffering is freedom from suffering. It's not like you win the battle over suffering. It's freedom from it. You don't have suffering. And that comes from present moment awareness. Um, Present moment awareness has no slots for the past or the future problems, fixing things. There's just nothing in there and that's why we spend a lot of time on these talks on the basic fundamentals about what the universe is and what it isn't. Like last week, I suppose, spent a lot of time on the concept of building your house on rock and not sand, because if you build it on rock, then everything is, I mean, everything's solid. You know where you stand, and you can trust in it. You have faith. You have faith that it's all, and it's faith of a really, really blissful type. But if you build it on sand, you're forever trying to fix the holes. You do that till you die. We come into the world taken care of. We have no really idea how we come through this. We come through it. We have faith to do that, and we leave eventually the same way. And in between, we hitch our wagons so often to trying to fix things, trying to make things happen. And the world is an amusement park, yes, and you can do that. You can play around in the amusement park. You can manifest things. You can do whatever you want, and that's okay. It's fine. But what starts to develop is you start to understand is your mindset when you're doing that. And this is where you start getting into spiritual teaching and spiritual realities. If you have no awareness, really no conscious, like worldly awareness of your spiritual nature or a spiritual law or anything like that, then you wouldn't want to be listening to me anyway. You'd be going, what the hell is this guy talking about? All I know is, you get the most toys you can and control and squeeze out as much power and pleasure as you can while you're here. What about when you die? I'm not going to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about what happens when you have to let it all go, you know. I guess that's when you end up on the cover of National Enquirer saying the last tragic days of Dale Blackford, the last tragic days of so and so. Why? They're tragic because they realize that they've utterly failed at their goal at that point, that there's no way that they control it. And they're starting to slip into the freedom. And actually, that's a beautiful thing. But when you're trying to hold on because you've trained yourself and you've swallowed the Kool-Aid, you drank it the whole time, saying this is what I'm here for. This is why I'm here, is to fix things, to make my, fix my self-image, fix my world, make it look the way I want it to look. Then you realize that you failed at that. We all fail at it, and rightly so. We need to fail at it. It's just such a small pittance of an experience. It's just a small pittance of an experience. It's nothing new. It's all about repetition. It's not about authenticity. It's about repetition and getting better at repetition. But nobody ever questions what that repetition is and what it means and the value of it. So once we get that, then we can actually play around with repetition. You can play around with everything in the world. You just have to recognize, I mean, it'd be like an alcoholic. If you're an alcoholic, um, eventually you crash and burn. You eventually crash and burn, and then you wake up. But you crash and burn and wake up. The reality is to realize that that's okay. The crashing and burning doesn't have to be crashing and burning in a dramatic sense. Crashing and burning has to do with holding on. If you realize that something's not working, but you're still trying to practice it, then you kind of can play it like the ride that you're on. But at the same time, you take it with a reality of seriousness about what it really is and what it isn't. And what it is just phenomenal, the phenomenal and attachment to the phenomenon and the experience based on that. But we are not that. You're not the self. You're being, your I am. And there's not space and time. There's only the moment. In the moment, if you're in the moment, like if you're in a, I mean, when I practice, when I'm in a, like, for instance, this stuff with the moving and stuff like that, when I start thinking like this morning, I realized I'd been thinking the wrong day for the move. And I was going like, well, have I connected with everyone on that? Did I translate that wrong day of the move to other people, and started feeling that kind of uncomfortableness and fear about it. And there's only one solution to that. It isn't checking it out and making sure it fits. It's going back to center and going, am I okay right now, here and now? Breathe. What's real? Me, here and now. Everything else moves around it. Everything changes. I mean, people even who work with the mind realize, and they say this, they say that, as in mind, so in manifestation, they use the power of visualization and stuff like that, of course, because you craft your world. Your world isn't something static, isn't something solid. It's an interpretation inside you of what you think you're seeing. So to come back, you got to come back to true sight, which is taking a breath, stopping where you are, asking yourself if you're okay right now, here and now, and stay there. Let everything else just move. Every time the thoughts go back into that, you can say, yeah, that's the way the world works, all that stuff, that. But here's a good question for me is to say worst case scenario develops from what my fear in my mind, my ego says is going to happen because of my neglect or whatever it is. Say that's worst case scenario. Do I know that worst case scenario isn't actually best case scenario? Do I know that that's not true? That worst case scenario actually leads to best case scenario. For example, the recovered alcoholic, they would certainly think that their crashing and burning is worst case scenario, but not being able to hold on to that. Yet in that release, new options come, freedom comes, a new pathway comes that they hadn't seen before, that is free, that gives them that freedom and the freedom from struggle. Because they're not here to battle alcohol. We're not here to battle any problem like that. We're here to be free from it. And if we can play with it, it's okay to play with it. But you gotta wake up sometime and go. That's one of the things I'm doing. I mean, I watch myself get caught up in things and like frustrated, especially this when if they're really good stuff, like stuff that I really have hidden well, and it's coming up and it's coming up with emotion and it's coming up with problems and it's coming up with fear and it's coming up with frustration and it's coming up with anger and it's coming up with pain and suffering and all that. If it's coming up with all that, that's really good stuff to be actually knowing the truth about because you can see that that's where your bliss is being blinded, being
Dale,
clouded.
can I stop you for a minute because
Sure,
you
yeah, yeah,
said
yeah.
something, and I think I found I may have found the title for this call. There's always several different titles that come out, but as you were lecturing, this Facebook meme came to me. I want to keep it real simple, and the Facebook meme went like this: those people with the worst histories have the best futures. Or maybe it went a little bit different. Let's see if I can get it right. Those people, sometimes those people with the worst histories turn out to have the best futures. And I think that ties into, I mean, past and future isn't part of, present moment awareness, but let's I want to ground this into a title of a call. Oftentimes, I think what you're referring to is people who have crashed and burned from alcoholism may find a tremendous purpose in life, not in spite of their, quote unquote disease or addictions, but because of it. And that was the premise that you shared with me 15 years ago that began to pull me out of my suffering. And I've gone on to do, this full time. So I just wanted to jump in because that's what I heard. And that's something that I always feel, what am I going to do for the Zoom call? Put it on YouTube. What kind of a JPEG am I going to make? And that one was the first one that came to my mind.
Right, yeah.
And it ties in what you're saying. People say, "Oh, that's," I'm down here at Namaste. Sometimes I share a little bit of my history, and you hear, "Oh, that's too bad. Oh, I'm sorry that happened to you." And I look at them with a perplexed look, and why in the world would you be sorry that happened to me? It's because of all that I'm here with you right now, and I get to have all these marvelous service opportunities, and I have this powerful purpose in life. I said, who cares about my retirement? Who cares about those green paper strips and little round metal discs? I get to spread love. Everyone kind of stops eating their food.
Yeah. Well, and it's of course it scares people. They think it's bad because it interrupts plans. It interrupts plans and intentions
Interrupts
and
the dinner.
but everybody, yeah, and it's like, well, that's why for me, like, why I was stuck with depression was one of the big ones for me right away because, I went down the rabbit hole of depression and I kept going down the rabbit hole because I had to. In that dark night of soul experience, I just kept going down deeper and deeper into depression, beyond, suicidal depression, beyond existential depression. I just was all way, way, way down there. And then, what I found was light. I found light. And then that was incredible because then I found that I could be in what was called a depressive state and be blissful in that depression. I could be like, wow. I could be, I can be like one thing I can do now that there aren't many people that can do this, but I can be, I mean, I'm talking about being in the middle of like crisis on this world. Okay, where everything's coming up and all then the mind's going like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We got to get busy. We got to get busy, timing, everything like that. When that happens to me, I see it right away. And I'm going, and right away I know where to go. I can go to the moment. I can actually go to the moment then and go, it isn't like running away from those thoughts. It's like slipping into something like the foundation of what this is all built upon. And I slip into it and I go, do you know that any of that's true, Dale? And I go, no, I don't know that any of that's true. I don't know that any of this scenario means anything. What do you know that's true? I know that the universe is friendly. I know that it's carrying me. Okay. So everything that you're thinking that you're failing or you need to get in the way, that's something that you're making up, isn't it? And I go, yeah, I'm making it up. And so I have to trust it again. And to trust it is then open it up to everything. You can't trust that it's going to, people think that trusting the universe is trusting the universe to fill in and fix your picture. The universe, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't feel, I mean, if the picture is corrupt, it's not going to fill in and lighten up the corruption. It's going to expose the corruption to surrender. and freedom. That's what it does. But it doesn't like slap you, or it doesn't bitch slap you. It just shows you, like, with this, you start realizing with this assurance that everything is in order. That everything's in order. And the biggest thing for me is sometimes, and I'm still working with this, is because sometimes I feel real alone, like real alone. That's still of the world, because there's a part of me that would like to be in a world where my brothers and sisters who are part of me are acting in that way, and treating things that way. And there are some that do. But what I find is most of the experience around me is people caught up in the world. That's just what they do. I get caught up in the world too. Um, it's hard, I'm trying more and more to have a conversation with someone who's caught in the world to say, you know, how do you get out of the world? How do you let that go? How do you surrender that? This would be a good one to surrender right now, wouldn't it? Yeah, let's surrender this. And so that's what you do. You don't change your thinking. Your thinking goes blah, 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 blah. But what you change is you change your attention to that thinking. You do change your attention to that thinking, because you're sitting there going like it's part of the theme park ride. It's all this, like, hold on tight, because if you don't, it's the coaster's going tight to the right and you might get thrown out. So lean to the left, lean to the left. No, that isn't gonna, that's not what's happening, but you think it is. And so you become present, really, more than change your thinking or anything like that. Um, the change in thinking is the change of intention to stay busy, or the intention to surrender, literally surrender. Because sometimes it just feels like, I don't know what this is, but I have to surrender my attachment to it, because it's certainly very hostile, and I'm not equipped. And I know I'm not equipped to fix hostility anymore. I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, one, I don't have any juice for it. I don't have any faith in it. So everything about dealing with the world is about focus and clarity of a mind, visualization, clarity. Well, how can you have clarity if you don't even believe in it, or if you have no juice for it? You have no faith that it's actually leading anywhere other than cheap thrills or cheap drama, or maybe not so cheap, maybe expansive drama. I don't know, expansive thrills. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with thrills and drama, but they are not reality. And it's important to remember that, and to know that. You'll remember it if you know it. If you don't know it, then you probably have to do kind of what I did, which was, although this helps, where two or more are gathered, this helps. But if you don't know it, then you have to do the field work, which is what everybody's doing. They're doing the field work.
You said something. Just, I'm going to jump in because there was something I had
go ahead.
written
No,
down.
jump in all the time.
And you've said this before, and this is a discussion which I feel is important. People don't discuss death.
No.
In our culture, it's a taboo subject. As if it doesn't happen. The only thing it's inevitable. I even, sometimes when I'm here in Mexico, I attend a lecture. One of Meredith does once a month. It's called Death Cafe, where people talk about it. Why is that? Why are we so afraid to talk about the only thing that we can be assured of in this world?
Well, I mean, to talk about death and actually to look at it is to open yourself up to the reality of collapse of the world you've built up. You look at that. I mean, there's no way you're not going to see that. If you're going to look at death, you're going to look at, I mean, if you really look into it, it's not just, oh, I just die. That's not talking about it. Talking about it is, wonder what it's like to die. What happens when my body can't do what my body was doing? What happens when I can't focus my mind in the ways that I was focusing it? Because all that happens for a purpose. It's like you come into this world with nothing and you leave this world with nothing, because you really, in the whole time you were here, you had nothing. You just were playing around thinking that you had something, even yourself. And everybody else is going patting you on the back and they're cooperating with you. They're going like, yeah, 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 we got something here. We got something here. We got something here. Nobody's got anything. Nothing. Nothing. In a sense, we've got everything, but it's not thing. It's like we got everyness. We have everyness, but we don't have specific things. You can pick them up and let them down. Like we got rid of a bunch of plants today, big plants. Those plants are worth a lot of money in the world. They were huge. Cactus, I mean, just, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of plants. We gave them away. We asked people to come over and take plants. And the thing for me is I'm going, those plants, wow, I love them. I've cared for them. I love them. They've been beautiful in my life. And now something has changed where plants are leaving and I am here. So am I going to go to that window, or am I going to spend time figuring out how I can make money from those plants and sell them and do this and that, do the right thing about? I mean, no, let them go.
I've got to jump. I'm going to jump in real quick because if I don't say something, I'll lose my train of thought. I announced at the beginning of this call that I'm a minister for Living Church Ministries, and we all follow David Hoffmeister, and he gives hours and hours of lectures. But one of the things that stands out in all of his lectures is that he says very clearly, and he says it with a belly laugh, so it doesn't threaten too many people, but very clearly from the Course in Miracles, it says, if it doesn't last forever, it has no value whatsoever. I mean, that's a pretty broad blanket statement, but it cuts through all the nonsense. So I guess that leads us to the question, does any of this have any value at all? Plants, are they going to last forever? No, they don't have any value. And you're one of the few, you're one of the few ministers, lecturers, mystics who will come out and speak on this topic. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad we're doing this ministry to be able to speak together, because you come out and say it. And I like it. So keep going.
Well, when the plant left here, the big plants left, they're gone. So that part of my life, it's done. There's no more investment in it. They're gone. So, I mean, there's no working to let go. There's no working to let go. There's just let go. And this is the message of the universe, is let go. Let the universe provide for you. The universe will provide for everyone completely. Completely. Instantaneously in the moment. But the key is you have to let go and let the universe do that. And you have to trust that what the universe brings to you, which is new stuff, is better than what you would plan. And we know what we plan. There's no heaven in that. There's work in that. Everything we're trying to hold on to is work.
Dale, we're living in a culture in the United States, and it's about ready to change as things, begin to collapse, before our eyes. But historically, it's all been about planning. We have financial planners, we have retirement planners, even in the spiritual community, we've got life coaches. Well, we're going to help you plan it all. But I tried all that, and that just got me further into the spider web, and then you come along with this very refreshing message that the universe will take care of us, but planning is in the hands of the universe instead of our best thinking. I like that. I like your message. It's like many years ago, you were telling me a story about I think it was something to do with your daughters, or one of your daughter. I can't remember the story, but I remember the parable that came from the story. Is your daughter was caught in a drama of some sort, and you let her have the drama, and then when she was done, you shared your story, and you said, you know what? I mean, you didn't criticize, you didn't scold, but I was very impressed with what you said to me. You said, very simply, I like my story better than yours.
Yeah, that's what I told her. She laughed. She started laughing. She was so serious and caught up into it. And she was picking apart. My story was just simple. And I went, mine was like, mine was, well, whatever you've lost, it was something she lost, her friend lost. I say, like, it could be here, it could be there. Maybe nobody's found it. It's da, da, da. I said, and she kept going, "Oh, Dad, no, 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 no. That that's gone. I don't know what she's going to do with that." And I'm going, "Well, maybe nobody's." And I just went, "Well, it could be this. I don't know." And then she's going on, "No, Dad, that's just really hard." And I just that's when I said, her name's Nisha, and I just said, Nisha, I like my story better than yours. And she cracked up and she started laughing. And I'm not making this you remember because you heard this story. Uh, Less than a minute later, her friend called her and the situation had resolved itself. In less than a minute after saying that resolution, they found what they had lost. And it was like, because she cracked up laughing. I said that because she's trying to lobby me into the hostility of the situation. And I'm basically going like, I just can't go there. I think I think there's some friendliness around here, you know?
Well, I tell you, I run these uh, calls intuitively, and intuitively, I think I just got the title for this because I always want to come up with creative titles and make shorts. And I think the title "I like my story better than yours" is at the top of the list because I've never forgotten that
Yeah.
because I've copied it over the years. How many people come up to me and with all sorts of stories that are very complicated and contain lots of drama, want me to fix it, and I'll interject my story of how I view it, and they'll go on with theirs. And I've always, in many times, Dale, because of what you said to your daughter, I just look back at them and say, "Well, I like my story better than yours."
Yeah. And the bottom line for the story is for me, it's like I like the story that's open-ended. I like the one that was promised me in my faith that it's a I mean, I like the story that the universe is friendly and in all situations, that there's no way it's not friendly. And if that's the case, there's no other shoe to drop. There's nothing like that. And then you look at things and you can expect, and when you let go, you could expect to see that the universe is going to show you things better than you could have possibly imagined. And that, one of the things I've brought this up, I forget, I think I brought this up in a men's group maybe yesterday. Because it really struck me. I saw this a few years ago, and it was like, because part of the whole thing about a friendly universe versus a hostile one is when you start working in that realm and seeing in that realm, uh, manipulating circumstance is hostile. Manipulating circumstance is hostile. Takes
I want to I
energy.
want to hear I want to hear more on that because
Takes
I'm
energy. There's a right and a wrong. You got to keep your wits about you. You got to use all the things you think about and know. You've got to really got to kind of wrap your tentacles around it and manipulate it in a way to get it to be what you want it to be. Whenever you see a circumstance and you're going like, well, I need to manipulate this, okay? Because it's telling
manipulating.
me,
I'm gonna repeat that because I think it's worth repeating. Manipulating a circumstance is hostile. I like that. Keep going.
yeah, because each circumstance say, well, you didn't coordinate with the movers right. Maybe you didn't coordinate with the movers right, and they got the wrong day. But that's a circumstance there. So, I got to fix that. I got to make sure the communication, all manipulation of that stuff is hostile. It's hostile. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's hostile. Okay. What's friendly is uh, accepting what is and seeing where it leads. Breathing, staying in the moment, accepting what's there, and watching how the universe leads you. Now, see, this is how the universe can provide for you. The universe can never provide for you if you're always in the driver's seat, filing and funneling everything into your plans of manipulation. There's no way the universe, I mean, it does provide for you. Your heart keeps beating. I mean, it actually does keep providing for you, but you don't see it. You take it for granted. We take for granted that the sun shines and at a moderate distance that we can live on this planet. We have nothing to do with controlling that. We take for granted that there's air for us to breathe. We don't think about that. Why? Because it's so big, we can't manipulate that. You can't manipulate air, the air that, I mean, we're trying more and more to do that, but you can't really manipulate the breathing process. You can't really manipulate the sunshine process. because that's all larger than our minds are able to conceive of us manipulating. So we just accept that, or blood flowing through our bodies and bodily functions, stuff like that. We're starting to get in there more and think we're tweaking and stuff like that. But the basic operation of it, the fact that we can, or that our minds even, think about this one, that we can actually think. Do we manipulate, or do we actually conceive of and manipulate our ability to think? Are we the authors of that? Are we the authors of our thinking?
Yeah, let me stop you there, and I want to touch on that because that's an interesting topic. Where it really dawned on me one day that I have no control over my own thoughts. And it came as a lecture, again, a lecture from David Hoffmeister, who said we are being thunk. It's a very complicated rabbit hole. But if I have no, let's see, how do I put this? Because it's kind of a gray area. But if my thoughts are already prescripted, then it relieves me. It gets me off the movie screen so that I can simply watch the thoughts now. I'm not coming as some sort of a mystic who's perfected this, because I've just made the discovery. But that's one of the things that you also shared with me, probably close to 12 years ago, something about a movie screen and us getting off the movie screen. And I said, this guy's onto something, but I don't understand it quite, but I'm listening very, intensively. I understand it now, 12 years later, that when we're on the movie screen, we're trying to manipulate the thoughts of the movie character. And the truth that I am carrying today is that this script has already been written. And since it's already been written, I really have no control over what happens on the screen itself. And that puts me, into a place where I can remove myself from the screen, get into the audience, and become the observer of the one who's thinking. Now, I just said a mouthful, but I think that ties into something that you just said. One of the premise you've had all these years that has helped remove me, help me find freedom from my suffering, in other words.
Well, the thinking part is, well, I'm gonna say it's like, I don't know. I go back to Krishnamurti, where he's saying, his secret is he doesn't mind what happens.
Yeah.
You don't mind what happens, you're free to notice everything, and then you're able to see the universe. You're able to see love. You're able to see full power. You're able to see how everything connects, and you're able to see that you're part in it, and you're able to experience bliss, and you're able to experience freedom from suffering. Suffering always has to do with some sort of manipulation of some sort, where you're trying to, it's a reaction to something in this world. There's no end to that, except stepping back, like you were saying, kind of like if you're watching a play and you step back and you watch it and you remember that you're a character in the play. You've created an avatar that's playing this thing out. And there's all kinds of drama on that kind of level. But the big thing you need to know is that you're not the actor. You're not the actor. You're just playing the part of an actor. You're putting your consciousness into that. And when you pull it out, but see, when you pull it out, that's the thing. That's why nobody wants to talk about death, because that death is pulling it out. Death is pulling out your consciousness out of all form. That's what death is. You pull your consciousness out of all the form that you have attached to. All of it. Your roles, not just your body, of course, but your roles too. I mean, people don't die holding on to their role as father, mother, good friend. That is not how they die. They die letting that go too. You have to let go of everything that you've vested upon this earth that you have attached to, because they're shadow investments. Is friendship real? Like a connection? Yes, but it's deeper than what you think it is. It's oneness. It's oneness that you've on this planet, you've somehow created a language to get close to sharing and experiencing with someone. And you call that person, you call that love, or you call that friendship or something like that. but it's deeper than that. It's actually oneness. It's oneness with all being, and the person, or whatever you were perceiving as the person with you, you're one with that being. That is eternal. That is eternal. But all the forms and clothing and cloaks you wear from the movie and the scripts and everything like that, that none of that has any reality. It's all part of the show. Is it bad? No, because that seems to be one of the things we're all doing here is exposing the truth of the shadow play in all kinds of ways. We're all doing that. We're all have a part to expose that. I'm not sure why we're doing that, other than I know there's something about oneness, but we're doing that. Uh, and that's okay to look at that and to see it. I mean, know the truth that makes you free. The first truth is the lies, to know what's not real, and that makes you free. I mean, the truth of reality, like what's real, that's seen when your distractions are gone, when all distraction is gone. But death is that equalizer. It's the one that takes that away. So no, nobody wants to talk about death, because I mean, they don't even look at experiencing death till it's like kind of basically forced into their face, whether it's instantaneously, like in a car wreck or something like that, or it's a long illness, or a getting older, where it's pushed upon you, and you realize that things are being taken from you, things that you thought you could hold on to forever. And it'd be literally like the spirit saying to you, but I'm losing all this. I thought you loved me, God. And it's saying like, well, of course I love you. Why do you think I'm taking this away from you? It's time for you to come home and it's time for you to
I'm
wake up.
home.
It's time for you to wake up. Your
Wake
journey
up.
here of sleepiness and fighting
You've
all
been
these things in
dreaming.
hostility, it's over. It's time to come home.
Time to come home.
It's time to let go and be home. But to let go and be home, that's why we do these workshops or this kind of stuff. It's difficult on, it's difficult for most people because they're so incredibly attached to the story and to what they're seeing and who they think they are and what they think the world is about and why they're here. And they're trying to tweak that. And of course, in our getting into our level and stuff, they're trying to say, well, you have a spiritual part, so let's honor it spiritually. And spirit's going like, well, you are spirit, but you're trying to use white magic to tweak corruption, and that ain't gonna work. That ain't bad, but that ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work. All you're gonna do is make more stranger attachments, stranger attachments. Like my friends the other day that said something like, and I'm not trying to pick on them, but they're Course in Miracles student, and the person says the ego is evil. Okay, that's a strange attachment. In a world of love, something as personal as your ego is evil. That's pretty bizarre. That's a pretty bizarre attachment. I mean, when the light of your being and love is inclusive of all. But this part that's so intimate with you, that knows your hidden secrets and stuff like that, it's evil. Why is it evil? Because you can't control it, right? Yeah, because it's uncontrollable, because it's raw. It's going down into the thing where you've pushed stuff down in, and it's bringing it up, saying like, and it's bringing it up at times where you don't want to see it, which is exactly when you need to see it, when you don't want to see it. It's bringing it up saying, have you seen this? What are you going to do about this? And at first it's going like, well, you need to do all this. You need to do all this field work. You need to do all this manipulation, blah, 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 until finally you go, you end up in a shower going, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. No, and don't even know you're saying it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Because your being has reached that point where you're going like, I don't know what to do about this. Of course you don't know what to do about it. It's madness. You can't manipulate and fix madness. And you don't know how to let go because you're so attached to it that you just don't, you think like you have to do something to it to release it. The only way you do something is you call some friends over and say, hey, would you like a plant? And they take the plants, and the plants are gone. And then you look around and you go, huh, I'm not attached to plants anymore, am I? They're gone. That's not good or bad, but it is freedom. There's a freedom in that of releasing things, letting them move on and on. Something else comes into your life to experience. What could that be? I'm not gonna try and figure out what if I go to these other apartments, it's a whole different thing. I'm not going to try and figure out how I can duplicate the plant experience over there. I don't know what the plant experience is done here. That's okay. The hummingbirds, I have a hummingbird feeder here. In fact, there's a guy right there right now, and they're really friendly and they're close, and that time is over. I'm looking at it, I'm going like, dudes, we've been together a long time, in a week. There ain't going to be anything here. You're going to have to find another way. And it's like almost like they're saying, yeah, I know, it's been really good though, and I'm enjoying it right now.
Sermon on the Mount, lilies of the field,
You
Dale.
see them?
You'd have to turn the camera around.
Oh, maybe not. I don't know. Any rate, they're pretty cool. Any rate, so
This is always refreshing because downstairs, sometimes I hear a lot of, well, I'm not, never mind, I'm going to edit that part out what I just said, but no, a lot of the traditional ministers are just giving some very fluff talks, but I want these talks to go down very deep, because if we don't go deep, what's the point? I've heard it all before. We can just spin around and around and try and improve try and paint the amusement park pretty colors. But every time I get onto a Zoom call with you, David, it's not about improving the amusement park or having more fun in the amusement park. It's about leaving the amusement park. And
right.
it takes a lot of deep diving. And it's not for everyone. But when you're in that's what I've always heard from you over the years, is that's why suffering serves. Because suffering, when we're suffering this much, we don't have much choice. We've got to go home, and that's how suffering serves. Because now I'm still in this 57-year-old body. I'm going home, and the body's not going anywhere. It's going to stay on planet Earth for probably another 20 or 30 years. And
Right.
isn't that what all the sages and the mystics have been telling us? Is that we're supposed to die before we die? Well, all this time that you're lecturing on death, I'm listening very carefully, because the dream character Kenneth, everything he's thinking, his thoughts and his beliefs, basically could be his ego. I don't know. I'm not going to go that far, but this parable that I've written is dying, and you have my full attention, because it's paving the way for something very simple from here on forward. And I heard you say it. You call it present moment awareness. So you have my
Well,
full attention.
death is not death. It's the death of suffering. It's the death of the small hostile
Yeah,
universe. It's
yeah.
rebirth. It's new birth. It's new birth. It's awakening to, like we said earlier, it's like coming home. It's coming home. So it's like, and we're reaching the place now, like, here's the question, the question for me is, do I want to die to myself here and now and die to this world and realize that all the things of the world that I've held on to will no longer really matter anymore? And then a part of me says, but then a part of me looks at that and says, okay, let's look at that. What is it about the world, if you want to take away the fantasy, what is it about the world that really you want to hold on to, that you're so excited about the fact that this world will provide you and it will you'll keep you fulfilled? Not
You
about a job. It's not
isn't
about
isn't
what?
I'm sorry to jump in, but I gotta interject this. Isn't this what Jesus was saying 2,000 years ago?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he was also saying, it's like, and we don't get it. I mean, I was just at church today where and they sang a song, and it's like, about him being the savior and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, he never was a savior. He was asking,
Oh,
he was challenging us to
wake up.
wake up, but he wasn't even, he even knew that. He knew that we wouldn't wake up. Like when he went, when he knew he was going to be crucified, he told his closest confidants that they would all leave him. They would all leave him. He knew that. He knew that they couldn't step up to that awareness. And he knew even as teaching that we all couldn't step up to that awareness. But what he did know also was he could plant the seeds of the reality, that we could not shake the fact that even though we're living a lie, we're not living we're actually living the truth as well. We're just refusing to look at it. And if you start looking at it, that's when death and everything, the death of self, the death of everything starts to come into the picture, the death of your intentions, your plans, and that, but that isn't throwing them away, that is just recognizing that the energy and the vision for that is going to dissolve away. And you don't have to fight that, because in its place comes another way of operation. Like instead of thinking, for instance, when you can stop paying attention to thought is when you start realizing that there's another way of perceiving. Almost, it's not even perceiving, it's called insight, where the universe is actually opening you up to things cosmically across the whole one that you've never ever experienced before in this avatar thing, but you do know in your own spirit, but you haven't put the pictures, the connections together. They start showing up and how they function in this relative world. They start showing up, and you can start seeing that. You can start living that way from that. And it's a surrender of and an insight and an opening that you've never seen before. That, and then of course the thoughts, that's when the ego becomes resigned, and where it's going to ask you seriously, what are your plans for the ego, because it's seeing that where it's worked from, which is thinking and manipulation of circumstance and all that stuff. One of the first things it said to me was, that when it finally sobered up, that part of me, it said, you can't do this anymore. That's the first thing it said. It said, you can't do this anymore, can you? And I was really excited because I read the code. I didn't need more information than that. I knew what it was saying to me, because it's my ego. And it was saying, you can't manipulate the circumstances that I'm telling you need to be manipulated, can you? And I'm going, no, it's not, it didn't say you won't do it. And I knew that. That's what excited me. It didn't say you won't manipulate the circumstances. You can't do it, can you? And I'm going, no, I can't. I have no juice, I have no vision, I have no faith in it. And of course, then the ego is saying something like, well, in a sense, it's saying, should I even exist anymore? Which is me asking that, saying, wait a minute, should I even exist in this world if I can't manipulate it? Because the whole world seems to be built around doing that. And I'm going like, well, I'm here, aren't I? We're here, aren't we? And it's like, yeah. Well, then that's all we need to know. If we're here, then we should exist here, because that's what's going on. But more shall be revealed, and I know, we'll see what shows up. And part of that was learning how to, being like having coffee with the ego and shooting the shit about the world and going like, getting to have a dialogue that was like, can you believe this is this is this is this? And we used to really take that so seriously. In fact, there's a part of me right now that's thinking about this one thing that says we should take it seriously. And yet I can't do anything about it, can I? And the ego's going, no, you can't, can you? And I go, no, no, I can't do anything about it. I'm worrying about, isn't it funny? I'm worrying about it. And reality is, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I can't do anything about it, that I'd have to face it at all. Oh, that was the other thing about circumstance. I kind of missed that. I come back to it, is that instead of trying to manipulate circumstance, you come to another place, which is you realize you're done manipulating circumstance. All you need to be able to do, all you need to be able to do in any situation is in the moment, meet the circumstance, meet it consciously. That's all you have to do, is meet it. Now, of course, this is an interesting thing, because it can be that thing like hanging from the rope, the vine, and the lion, the death fall below you, rocks and stuff, the lion up above swiping at you, everything against you, and the mouse comes out, starts gnawing on the vine, and you're sitting there going like, you can come to that sobriety. It says, please God help me, which is basically, I want to wake up. And God says, no problem, let go of the vine. And it's like, go back. Well, I'm not quite done struggling here. Is anybody else up there? Not anybody else up there. Which is, or that same one, the Buddhist version, or whatever, the enlightened person. And I don't know if it's Buddhist, because I don't know if Buddhists are that aware anyways, any more than anybody else is. but the one where that's all going on, and the guy sees a strawberry growing out of the side, and he picks it and tastes it and says how sweet that strawberry is, because that's reality. Reality is not hanging in the problems there. The reality is he's alive, breathing, and there's a sweet strawberry that he can taste sensually, and he tastes it. And everything, that's all that matters, is you meet circumstance. And then if you look closely, if you really throw out the whole thing about success is manipulating something the way you want it, say success is just moving through it and being okay, that you're not harmed by it. Really, really, you're not harmed by it. I mean, seriously harmed, like you've been, whatever you think your mind is going to do to create harm from that. Because, I mean, it could be what you call abuse, but that may not be harm. But say you're abused. I mean, have you ever been, I look at myself and I go, have I ever failed to meet circumstance? What's my track record on that? My track record is I'm perfect. After 74 years, there's not been one moment where I have not been able to meet circumstance. I don't know, it's gone south, done this, that. I mean, if you were thrown in jail, you still met circumstance. If you were in, I was in jail at one point, and I met circumstance. I was in the jail and I met circumstance. There was no time in my life that I not met circumstance. I lied, was busted, and I met circumstance.
Dale, I'm gonna bring this back to something you said many years. You've said many things over the years that I've never forgotten. I've listened to countless lectures, and most of them I've forgotten. But when you say something, when you lecture, there are things that are nuggets that are dropped that get implanted. One of the ones, and I heard you say it. That's why I stopped you at various points to see if I could just pull out a very simple nugget for the audience of the YouTube audience. You said that we're simply to show up. Just show up. I've never forgotten that.
Yeah.
Because it really cuts like a knife through all the complications that our ego is going to create. And you were right.
Yeah.
Because when my life has gotten complicated all these years, I've heard your voice repeat in my head, Kenneth, just show up.
And know that you will. I mean, even if in my life there's times where I haven't shown up and I'm just kind of been in the la la, I don't know. And then I show up. And it's like Spirit says to me, "What's your problem, Dale? I mean, you always show up. You know, why was I in this blah, 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 or trying to or doing all this?" And it's like, well, you know why. I got you here to do field work. I need you clear, buddy. Need you clear. I need you to be able to go through all the stuff of humankind that comes up and distracts you and locks you into perceptions and struggling to make something happen and change things. I need you to be able to go into that and to be able to look at that and bring what you know, where you can laugh like you do with the ego and say, and I'm afraid of that, and I know I can't do anything about it. But am I okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Then whoa. Yeah, I guess I don't have a plan to go to Europe next week. I don't. Or the money that I see in the bank to do that. Oh my God, I'm a failure. Am I? I could go to Europe like that with nothing, if that's where I'm going to go. I can go anywhere I want to go in the moment like this. But it's where Spirit wants me to go, because I want to go where insight shows me something fresh and new and shows me myself, shows me freedom. So that, so that I'm not thrown by any of this stuff. I could be like, I want like to be like Krishnamurti and go, well, what's your secret of your joy and your bliss? I don't mind what happens.
I don't mind what happens. Dale, we're going to need to start
My
wrapping this
ego
up.
pops
Coming
up.
up on
What?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
We're
well,
going to start wrapping
last
this
thing is
up.
my ego pops up in Krishnamurti. The ego doesn't, the ego's somehow, I don't know what the ego's doing with him. It's probably just sitting in a cabana with a cigar and just laying there going like, you are the cat's pajamas, Krishnamurti. I love being your ego. I just love being your ego. It's such a beautiful ride.
you know, I'm going to add just a brief, closure before we close, because something's coming across my awareness is I had a very difficult relationship with my own father. We parted ways back in the late '80s, early '90s, for some silly misunderstanding. But he didn't leave without planting his seeds. And my grandmother passed in 1983. She was I never really got to know the adult in her. If I could have lasted, I was only 16. If I could have lasted a few more years, but that doesn't matter, because he shared with me some of her sound bites. I had a very wise grandmother, and she looked at him. It was very shortly before she died, with a very honest question, which I'll never forget. She looked at my father and she said, "Steve, what did it all mean?" Anyway, I could elaborate on that, but we're coming on 58 minutes. Dale, thanks. I love listening to you talk. And what I love more is when I get to go back over these recordings. And, either I'm going to do the full recording, which I'm probably going to do the full recording, but then I'm going to try and pull out shorts, because you've got so many sound bites. But my desk is like this. I got so many videos to edit. This is Kenneth Price, Reverend Kenneth Price. I've been here with Reverend Dale Blackford on Sunday, August 18th. And this is our ministry, 2ormorere1.com with the number 2. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave your comments below and subscribe to our channel. This ministry's got a very valuable message, and it's a very, well, I'm going to leave it up to you. Thanks for watching. God bless, and may the force be with you. Bye.